Hi, I'm Jasma. Today we are making raspberry and rose taro snowskin mooncakes. As a basic crash course, if you've never heard of mooncakes before, these are little cakes traditionally eaten on the Mid-Autumn Festival, which is a Chinese holiday. It's also known as the Moon Festival. The best way to describe what a snowskin mooncake is like is that it has a similar texture to mochi. It's very glutinous, it's chewy, and it's quite sticky. That is the snowskin portion. And the filling, it typically consists of some sort of a paste. Today we're making a taro and rose filling, and in the center I am using raspberry jam. So to get started, fill up a steam pot halfway with water and put it on the stove on high heat so it can come to a boil. And now we make the snowskin. In a bowl, I'm gonna add all of my dry ingredients. That includes the glutinous rice flour, icing sugar, cornstarch, and a pinch of salt. Then for the wet ingredients, add the milk, melted unsalted butter, and sweetened condensed milk. Then for the coloring and the flavoring, I'm using raspberries. I have frozen raspberries. You can also use them fresh. I just microwave this for about 40 seconds so that it will thaw up. And then I'm gonna strain it into my batter. You can also just puree this using a food processor. Now we mix. I'm gonna pass this through a sieve just to get rid of any lumps and also catch any of those extraneous raspberry seeds that escaped the first sieve. Now back to the pot of water, which should now be boiling. Place the snowskin batter in a steam-safe bowl into the steam pot, slightly off-centered. Place the lid on a slant so the condensation formed doesn't drip into the snowskin, and allow this to steam on medium heat for 20 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to prepare the taro for the taro filling. So wash and peel a piece of taro. Then cut this up into small chunks. The smaller you cut it, the faster it'll cook. Weigh the quantity that the recipe calls for after you've gone through all of that for the most accurate amount. And then once the snowskin has finished steaming, which you'll know it's done when there's no liquid left in the center, take out the snowskin and place the taro into the same steam pot and allow it to steam on medium heat for 15 minutes. If you haven't already, go check out my blog, jasmafishandcuisine.com. It is newly launched and it has my recent recipes, including this one, on there fully written out. And while you're there, browse around a bit, click some things. I worked on it for too long not to promote it, so there you go. For the rose part of the rose filling, I'm using these dried edible rose buds. It's meant for tea. I got mine from Amazon. I'll link it down below for you, but you should also be able to find it in a grocery store. If you purchased just dried rose petals, then go ahead and measure that on its own. But if you have rose buds, then you're gonna have to remove the rose petals from the green part of the rose. Should I Google what the proper term is for that so that I sound more professional? Wash the rose petals under cold water and drain out any excess water. Then proceed to mince all the rose petals as finely as you can. You can also use a food processor for this step. Then add the minced rose petals into your white granulated sugar. We're going to massage this together so that the rose petals can infuse its flavor into the sugar and also the rest of the filling. Okay. My taro has finished steaming. It should just be fork tender, and that means it's fully cooked. As soon as you take it out of the pot, you want to transfer it into a bowl. Then to the straightaway, I'm going to add my butter so the heat of the taro can melt it down, as well as the rest of the ingredients, including the sweetened condensed milk, the rose sugar, and a little bit of salt. Then just take a fork and mash it all up. It should be very easy to mash if you cooked it long enough. I would say the taro is easier to mash when it's still hot because then it's really soft. So if you find that you're having a little difficulty, just heat it up a little bit. This won't be perfectly smooth, but once it forms a paste, transfer it into a container so that it can be sent off to the fridge to chill for at least 3 hours. Now back to the snow skin, which should be cooled at this point. You want to flip it out onto a piece of plastic wrap and using a rubber spatula, knead it until it becomes a smooth and cohesive dough. If there was any oil that separated during the steaming process, this is where you knead it back in. Wrap it up tightly and place it into the fridge to chill for 3 hours. I would recommend, if you can, to prepare the snow skin and the filling the night before. Let it chill in the fridge and then just assemble everything the next day. This way you'll have plenty of time for everything to firm up. The more cold everything gets, the easier it is to work with because it's just less sticky, it's easier to handle, and it also just breaks up the process, so it makes things a little more approachable. Because working with snow skin is quite sticky, we're using some dusting powder, and the dusting powder is cooked glutinous rice flour so that it's edible. It's very simple to make, just on a stove. You want to cook some glutinous rice flour until it has a yellowish tint. Do not burn it. You can also use a microwave, and once you let it cool, it's ready to be used. Once the snow skin has chilled enough, it should be firm and tacky when you touch it, but not sticky to the point where you can't even work with it. If it is that, then you did not chill it enough, so pop it back in the fridge. I'm gonna start to portion my snow skin and filling. I like to do this before assembly, just to make it a more streamlined process. Portion the snow skin into 25 grams each. So after weighing out the snow skin, I like to just knead it briefly in my hand, just shaping it into a ball so that I don't need to do as much work later when I assemble. The cooked glutinous rice flour, which we're using as a dusting powder here, really is going to be your best friend. I find that my snow skin doesn't really stick to my container after I dust it, but you can also line yours with some plastic wrap. Now onto the filling. You also want to portion these out into 25 grams each. Fill a Ziploc bag with some raspberry jam and use something with a rounded end to create a well inside each filling. The trick here is that instead of creating a well that has straight sides, you want to have the walls cave in a little bit on the top so that later on when you pipe in the jam and try to seal up the filling, it won't disturb the jam inside, so you'll be able to seal it into a little pocket instead of having it leak out the top. So that's all the assembly prep you need to do. Let's begin actually making the mooncakes. Take a piece of the snow skin, flatten it until it's twice the size of the filling, place the filling onto the center and seal it up. The key to making this really easy is you want the filling to be chilled the same amount as the snow skin. If the filling is too hard and the skin is too soft, then when you're pressing it later on, it's going to create an uneven layer of snow skin. But if it's the other way around and the skin is too tough and the filling is too soft, then actually sealing up the mooncake is going to be difficult because then the filling is going to be spilling out of the mooncakes. So if the skin is just as firm as the filling, then both are equally malleable and it makes it a lot easier to do this. Smooth out the mooncake and then dust it in some cooked glutinous rice flour, then roll off any excess to prevent the final mooncake from looking and tasting powdery. Then finally, before stamping, gently roll the mooncake between your palms so that it can fit inside your mooncake mold. I'm using a 50-gram mooncake mold today. Fit in the pattern that you want and lock it into place so that the stamp is ready to be used. Gently hover the mooncake mold over the mooncake, careful not to scrape the sides, and then firmly press down a couple of times. And now you can reveal your final mooncake. The most optimal time to consume your mooncakes is during the 2 to 3 day period that it stores in the fridge. After the 3rd day, it's going to start hardening and turn into kind of a weird rubbery texture because the snow skin will start to dry out. There's really not much you can do to prevent the mooncakes from drying out other than storing it in a really airtight container. They kind of just are like this by nature. It has a shorter shelf life compared to regular mooncakes, so try to consume it before then. You won't have much trouble, I promise. Oh, let's do a speed run of self-promo. Go subscribe to my second channel, Mama Fusion Cuisine. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok, check out my Patreon, and my blog. Everything is linked down below. Go click on it, or don't. If you liked this video, I have a bunch of other mooncake flavors too, so they too will be linked in the description. Okay, thank you, bye-bye.